life, we all tend to reap what we sow, whether it's in this life or the next one. The Most High Yah says, vengeance is his. So is this Mr. Chauvin's karma? Let's find out. Let's get into it. Derek Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer who was convicted of taking the life of George Floyd during the 2020 arrest, was stabbed at a federal prison in Arizona on Friday, according to the office of Keith Ellison, the Minnesota Attorney General. No details were immediately available on his condition, but one of the people with knowledge of the incident said that Mr. Chauvin, age 47, survived the attack. The stabbing was the latest in a series of high-profile security breakdowns in federal prisons, which have struggled for years with safety and staffing issues. Here's what we know so far about the attack. Mr. Chauvin has been serving a sentence of just over 2 decades in federal prison after he was convicted of state and federal charges of violating the constitutional rights of George Floyd. He had been an officer with the Minneapolis Police Department for more than 19 years before Mr. Floyd's death. In May 2020, Mr. Chauvin knelt on Mr. Floyd's neck for 9.5 minutes as Mr. Floyd laid handcuffed, face down, on a South Minneapolis street corner. Mr. Chauvin was arresting Mr. Floyd on suspicion of passing a counterfeit $20 bill at the convenience store. Officials determined that Mr. Floyd's heart and lungs stopped functioning while the officers were restraining him. The killing of Mr. Floyd, 46, a security guard, was captured on video and widely seen. The death set off protests nationwide against police violence and racism. 3 other officers were also at the scene where Mr. Floyd was killed and were also later convicted of violating Mr. Floyd's rights. In a state court in 2021, Mr. Chauvin was convicted of murdering Mr. Floyd and sentenced to 22.5 years in prison. He was also sentenced to 21 years in federal prison in a separate federal civil rights case in which he pled guilty, severely limiting his right to challenge the sentence. This case brought out the truth in a lot of people. I'm talking about the undercover racists and undercover bigots. But right is right and wrong is wrong. And even his own boys in blue, his fellow comrades, had a few choice words to say about Mr. Chauvin.
Nearly 6 years after these 2 incidents occurred, we're forced once again to reckon with the deplorable acts of someone who has proven to be a national embarrassment to the policing profession, and the continued harm he has caused members of our community. More than another iteration of the hateful and violent legacy of this former employee, this is an example of the cancer that has infected this department.
To continue to apply that level of force to a person proned out, handcuffed behind their back, that in no way, shape, or form is anything that is by policy. It is not part of our training, and it is certainly not part of our ethics or our values.
We also have a 911 call from one of the witnesses at the scene.
911, what's the address of the emergency?
Officer 987 killed a citizen in front of a Chicago store. He just pretty much just killed this guy that wasn't resisting arrest. He had his knee on the dude's neck the whole time, Officer 987. The man went, stopped breathing. He wasn't resisting arrest or nothing. He was already in handcuffs. They pretty much just killed the dude. I don't even know if he's dead for sure, but he was not responsible when the ambulance just came and got him. And the officer that was just out here left, the one that actually just murdered the kid in front of everybody on 38th in Chicago.
Okay. Would you like to speak with the sergeant?
Yeah, like that was bogus what they just did to this man.
Part of Mr. Chauvin's plea deal with the prosecutors in his federal case was that he will be allowed to serve his sentence in a federal prison, which is generally considered safer than a state prison. Mr. Chauvin was at a medium security correctional institution in Tucson, Arizona that contains nearly 400 inmates. The facility is part of a federal correctional complex that also includes high security penitentiary. The complex overall has nearly 1,800 inmates. While the facility where Mr. Chauvin was stabbed in is run by federal officials, state prisons in Arizona have also had problems. And his most recent stabbing is the least of his worries.